US President Barack Obama was recently at the City Club of Cleveland. Basically, it's a nonpartisan organization where people go and discuss policy and politics just to get discussion rolling. Now, while he was there, he was asked about keeping big money out of politics. Very interestingly, one of the things Obama suggested was mandatory voting.
Hi, Mr. President. Kim and Karis. You speak about the dysfunction in Washington, partly because people are trying to be reelected every so often.
Yeah.
What about Citizens United and overturning that and getting some limits on campaign spending so that we bring some reality back to this situation?
In Australia and some other countries, there's mandatory voting. It would be transformative if everybody voted. That would counteract money more than anything. If everybody voted, then it would completely change the political map in this country.
What he describes here is who's not voting and why they should be voting. But what he doesn't discuss, which is more important, is why they're not voting. And I think that's for the same reason that just about everybody does. That vote doesn't really mean anything. Everybody knows that no matter what you vote for, you're only voting for one section of the capitalist class over another, what we call bourgeois democracy. You are free to choose, but you're only free to choose among who the bourgeois say you can. But on a more universal level, people understand that their vote doesn't really change anything. And in fact, they know one candidate to another year after year. The more things change, the more they actually stay the same. What we are living in is called liberal Western democracy. This is what Francis Fukuyama said was the high point of civilization after the end of the Soviet Union. And he said this would be the apex, or this would be the final form of government after all the struggles of social and economic and whatnot in history. What we may be witnessing is not just the end of the Cold War or the passing of a particular period of post-war history, but the end of history as such. That is, the end point of mankind's ideological evolution and the universalization of Western liberal democracy as the final form of government. These were words that were hailed throughout the world as the final defeat of socialism, that socialism would never return, and that capitalism and its Western liberal ideas are the apex of human civilization. If this, what we have right now, is the apex of human civilization, and this is the best that we can ever do, that's pretty damn depressing. Despite this incorrect prediction that was made by Francis Fukuyama, we can very clearly see that there are still repeating and reoccurring crises, both social and economic, that the both internal and external contradictions of capitalism still remain free to run to this day. Those problems were never actually solved, and in fact those problems almost came right to a head in 2008 that almost precipitated the death of capitalism globally. Nothing says liberal democracy works like having to force people to vote, right? I mean, all societies are based on force, and it is force that keeps all of them together. But what is significant here is the fact that the illusory mechanism of consent that makes us believe this society is somehow run by consent and we're free to choose is now something that has to be forced itself. And this aspect is very revealing. The illusion that this is the best of all possible societies is really starting to crumble. People are seeing that. They're seeing that their votes don't really mean anything and that day to day things stay the same. In fact, sometimes they quite often get a lot worse. Are we back to where we were before the Great Recession of 2008? No. Are social tensions actually getting worse than they were then? Yes. Just try being a black man in the United States and tell me that the social situation is not getting worse. People know this system doesn't work. They know their vote doesn't matter, and they know the system is rigged from the beginning so that the rich, the capitalist class, are the only ones who get any real say in the system whatsoever. Yet now, despite all of this, people still don't do anything. The first world, America, people still continue to not take any radical action against it. And this has been a bane of Marxists for a long time. Why can't the US become revolutionary? One of the claims that Marx made was that it was the advanced sections of the proletariat in the industrialized advanced worlds who would lead the world working class. But that's not what happened. Russia gives us the example of the most backwards country in Europe at the time was the one that went forward to socialism. China, which was almost entirely feudal, was the Asian country that stepped forward towards socialism. Why is that? If we look at a lot of the way things are in the United States right now, people are still comfortable enough that they're not willing to take radical action. They still have welfare, they still have food stamps, they still have Obamacare, they still have their TV, and they still got their cheap fast food. So the conditions are clearly not there for revolution to take place. There is a reason why Marx said the workers have nothing to lose but their chains. Because that was true at the time he wrote it, in the mid-1800s. We clearly do not live in the mid-1800s anymore. We are nowhere near the material conditions necessary in order to achieve revolution. We don't do anything. We don't violently rebel against the government because, frankly, we have no need to. We still live comfortably enough that we can just put our heads down and ignore it. We can just choose not to vote. We can choose not to watch the news on television. We can choose to just ignore the whole thing. Because that's the kind of position that we're in. This is how people can know things are false, but still not do anything. And one of the aims of mandatory voting is to try to break that conscious recognition. Well, I voted, so I mean the system works, right? And I think that is what's truly significant about Barack Obama suggesting the idea that voting become mandatory. If you like this video and you'd like to see more of them, then head over to my Patreon page and show your support. Or you can go to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media.